The South African Human Rights Commission argues that government was justified in restricting the sale and consumption of alcohol during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. But the Commission says the imposition of online education violated the rights of pupils who did not have access to it. The Commission today has released its annual trends analysis report for the financial year that ended in March 2021 and says it received over 5,000 complaints in that period. My colleague, eNCA reporter Moloko Moloto, is joining us now in the studio. He's got some details about this. Good afternoon, Moloko. So what do we get from this report in terms? Is that the largest number of complaints related to equality issues? Is that the case? Because that's the mandate, of course, of the Commission, issues around equality.
That is very true, Braden. This is a report which the Commission compiled for the financial year that ended in March 2021. So it's for the 2020-2021 financial year. Now, of course, it says there's about over 5,000 complaints that were lodged, but what is outstanding out of this is that about 700 of those, and these are the majority, relates to equality. And when we talk of equality, it would be race relations, hate speech, gender-based violence, and issues that are afflicting people living with disabilities. So they are very much concerned about the fact that 28 years into our democracy, we still have issues of hate speech and fraught race relations among South Africans. And of course, they are considering to introduce several measures, including what they call compulsory diversity education at the level of schools. And they say every person who would want to go to university, that particular subject will have to be a prerequisite, and they want Parliament to support that particular move. Okay, but I mean, they were looking at this period during which was the first year into the second year of our lockdowns, restrictions here, and we had many restrictions during the hard lockdown, you know, when we began in March 2020. What were the Commission's remarks and observations around what happened in that period in terms of these restrictions? Well, a lot of South Africans would obviously remember when we were told that we cannot even buy chicken, Braden, at a retail store. You would walk into a retail store or supermarket and they would say you can only buy that. You can't even buy sneakers or anything else that you would have wanted. So a lot of those did not make sense for many South Africans. And we saw, obviously, with the restriction of smoking and sale and consumption of alcohol. Now, the Commission today is saying, in hindsight, actually, while on the one hand, some of the restrictions did not make sense. For instance, when children were not going to school, other children were allowed to learn online. The Commission says that was a violation of rights for children. But on the other hand, the Commission is saying when government argued that it had to impose the restrictions on the sale and consumption of alcohol, actually they had a point, and the Commission supports that particular decision of government. Let's listen to the Deputy Chairperson of the Commission.
So in this regard, there were various restrictions, including, for example, the sale of alcohol. Government was able to demonstrate that its capacity to attend to ill people and the influx of people contracting COVID who were in need of both emergency assistance as well as ongoing hospitalization was compromised because of the trauma and injuries that they had to deal with on an ongoing basis from the abuse of alcohol in society. This is as much society's responsibility as it is government's responsibility or that of the legislature. So we have raised our concern in relation to some restrictions, but certainly not others, because we felt that they were justifiable in terms of the limitations of rights in our Constitution.
Of course, that was a virtual meeting, as you can see there from our screens, the voice of the Deputy Chair of the Human Rights Commission. So what about mandatory vaccinations? Remember, that was also a big issue after it started, and it carried on. Even today, there are, besides hesitancy, there are some people who are saying, why do we need mandatory vaccinations? What did the Commission find on that?
It definitely is still a big issue, Brad, not only in the workplaces where employers demanded that employees needed to vaccinate, and in some instances others were actually dismissed from their workplaces, and we are seeing some of the companies now, like Standard Bank, is now revoking that decision for mandatory vaccination. But the Commission is also touching on institutions of higher learning, and they are saying they continue to engage them to say, is it still necessary or not? But the Commission is saying it was a difficult issue for them to deal with because they had to consider the context and the fact that at times certain people were working with people directly, and they are saying their approach in this regard was on a case-by-case basis. Let's listen to the Commission.
Really, it seems we navigated, not just as a commission, but as a country as a whole, we navigated the issue of the vaccine requirements by different employees based on the case-by-case analysis, based on what kinds of risk assessments employers had done, what kind of consultation processes had taken place, and whether the policies in fact could be defended as justifiably limiting the rights of employees. As a commission ourselves, we had regard to our approach, and we adopted an approach which encouraged our employees, particularly employees and officials of the Commission who interacted with members of the public, either as complainants in monitoring interventions and so forth, to take the vaccine unless there were medical grounds for exemption.
That's the acting CEO of the Human Rights Commission there, ending that update from Moloko Moloto about the South African Human Rights Commission's report of trends of what happened during COVID-19, where there were hits and misses in terms of people's rights.